in an era when games were dead.
Kaboom!
There was virtually no console market in the U.S.
Nobody bought consoles, nobody bought video games.
An unknown company takes a big gamble.
Nintendo was not well known. In fact, newscasters would mispronounce the word Nintendo. They just couldn't get it right.
This is the story of the rebirth of the gaming industry.
What we've done is to single-handedly recreate a dead industry.
Suddenly Nintendo, a Japanese newcomer, comes in and has a new console and says, hey everybody, let's play games again.
The Nintendo Entertainment System completely revitalized what was a dead industry. It re-injected life. It made kids love video games again.
This is the NES. While disco breathes its last breath, and Jimmy Carter loses the presidential elections to a Hollywood actor named Reagan, America is ending its love affair with gaming.
In the early 1980s, the home video game business in the United States collapsed.
There was virtually no console market in the U.S. It was all after the crash of Atari.
So gamers took a step back and, opened their doors and went outside and saw the sun and did some other things for a while. Nobody bought consoles, nobody bought video games.
A smart boo-boo.
I think a lot of it was just because they got bored with the games. The games weren't at a high enough quality to really have people want to continue to play them.
It was usually referred to as the Atari debacle. There was a tremendous buildup of inventory of Atari home video game systems and a complete collapse, which cost a lot of people jobs.
But in Japan, gaming is alive and well, thanks in part to a company called Nintendo.
Nintendo's 150 years old. Started out making these playing cards. Nintendo did a lot of things in the meantime.
We were also in the consumer business selling the small Nintendo Game & Watch. So actually, we were in the handheld business before the home video game business.
Then they tried to break into the arcade business. Their first attempts weren't very successful. They had Sheriff, which was an okay game. They had a game called Radar Scope. Did quite well in Japan, but not in America.
Nintendo's biggest success in Japan is the Famicom, a unique game console developed by Masayuki Uemura.
It was based on Family Computer, is what they originally launched it over there, and they just shortened it up to Famicom.
The Famicom was introduced in 1983. The launch was very, very successful. The collapse of the home video game business was really a U.S. market thing. It was not something that had occurred in Japan.
It was a little tiny 8-bit box, red and white, actually really funny looking. It was really small, it's only about this big, but games on it were a lot of fun to play.
The system was well received because of the increased graphics capability of the product, as well as some really great games. So it took off, and it was not only successful, it was extraordinarily successful.
Nintendo makes a daring decision to bring the Famicom to America, and its timing couldn't be worse. Nintendo is about to bring their popular Famicom video game console to U.S. shores, and the odds are stacked against them.
The game industry was in turmoil, and into that terrible market, suddenly Nintendo, a Japanese newcomer, comes in and has a new console and says, hey everybody, let's play games again.
But first, the Famicom needs to become more American-friendly.
It just didn't fall into American taste. It looked very Fisher-Price. And we also didn't want to launch just a game platform because everybody at retail was saying another game platform. We did that. We just got done with that. Why would we want to do that again? So we had to come up with something a little bit more Americanized and something with more of a hook to it.
Our designers here at Nintendo of America thought that it ought to have a little bit more high-tech look.
Nintendo of America turns the Famicom into a new unit dubbed the Advanced Video System.
It had a music keyboard and a keyboard and, you know, the console itself, and it was real flat and sleek and gray and black. The Advanced Video System was really skinny. I mean, it was only about this tall, and it was a top-loading cartridge design. So we went and showed that at the Consumer Electronics Show.
And the reaction that we got from the retailers was very negative. Nobody wanted to touch it. No one was interested in it because it was a home video game system.
And then we came back from that show, and our president, Mr. Arakawa, called myself and my designer and said, you know, this is the shape of what they want to produce the NES in here. Can you make it look good? And you've got an hour to do it. And so we went back to drafting board, and we were all because we'd spent all this time on this other design, but we came up with that gray and you know, the stripe across the top in about an hour and came back in and presented it to him, and poof, the next thing we knew, that was what it was. Yeah, well, we lost the keyboards, both of them. There was a little, there was a floppy drive, and we lost that. It was just the two controllers and the box itself.
The front-loading cartridge slot isn't the only feature that sets this system apart from others.
There's this weird rectangular control pad, you know, with the little cross-shaped D-pad. I'm like, what? I don't understand what this was because I'm used to having joysticks in my games and with two little red buttons, and I thought, you know, it's weird, but it's comfortable, it works.
The Japanese company then approaches Atari for a partnership.
The deal that we proposed to Atari was that we would sell the product on an OEM basis to Atari and give Atari the opportunity to distribute it not only in the United States but throughout the world. We knew that Atari was synonymous with video games and that Nintendo was not even known by the average consumer.
But Atari turns down the offer, and Nintendo decides to go it alone.
Well, in the early 80s, Mr. Yamauchi was president of Nintendo Company Limited, the worldwide leader of Nintendo. He gave Nintendo of America the opportunity to see if we could launch the home video game system. We thought that we would test market the product in a small market area. And we explained that to him at a meeting sometime in early 1985. And he threw up his hands and said, no, the test market will be New York City. If you can succeed in New York City, you'll succeed anywhere, and if you fail, then you fail, and that's it.
The outlook for the Nintendo Entertainment System, or NES, is bleak.
We decided that we would have a focus group, and we would show the NES, and the reaction of these kids was absolutely negative. It was astounding. The results of the test, the experts said, the best thing you can do is not to introduce this product. It's not going to be well received. It's not going to be accepted.
But Nintendo is undeterred. After making a few additions to the NES to set it apart from traditional gaming consoles, the Japanese company prepares to roll the dice.
So in early 1985, the engineers at Nintendo Company Limited came up with Rob the Robot, which was made part of the Nintendo Entertainment System. So when we went to the retailers, we were saying, no, this isn't a home video game like Atari. This has Rob the Robot.
And then we positioned it as an entertainment system. He also had a zapper, and those things combined with it kind of put it over the top and made it look like it's just not a game console.
To get retailers to carry this system, Nintendo offers a win-win scenario.
Let us put it in. Let us put some displays in that we will bring to your retail outlets, and you don't have to pay us until the end of the year.
Not only that, but Nintendo would buy back any unsold NES units. On October 18, 1985, Nintendo takes the plunge and releases the NES in select stores throughout New York City. Now the fate of this little gray box is in the hands of the Big Apple.